Commander Cody raises his blaster. Obi-Wan Kenobi's back is exposed. 1 second. That's all it would take. One blast. One dead Jedi Master. But Obi-Wan moves first. He's already spinning. Lightsaber ignited, deflecting the bolt. How? How did he know? Across the galaxy, Mace Windu senses danger in Palpatine's office. Ki-Adi-Mundi dodges before his clones even fire. Aayla Secura leaps into the jungle canopy as blaster fire erupts behind her. They all knew. Every single Jedi Master. Every one of them survived. The execution that should have destroyed the Jedi Order in minutes just failed catastrophically. Palpatine's perfect plan, years in the making, shattered. And now 10,000 Jedi are about to become the Empire's worst nightmare. This is the story of how one Force warning changed everything. How the hunters became the hunted. How the galaxy's greatest peacekeepers transformed into the most dangerous resistance force in history. What if all the Jedi Masters survived Order 66? You're about to find out why Palpatine should have been terrified. Picture this moment. Master Yoda sits in meditation aboard a gunship returning from the Battle of Kashyyyk. His eyes snap open. The Force screams a warning, unlike anything he has felt in his 900 years. Not a premonition, not a vision. A certainty. Betrayal comes, not from the Separatists, from within, from those who fight beside them. In the original timeline, Yoda sensed the deaths of Jedi across the galaxy only as they happened. But what if he felt it coming just minutes before? What if those precious minutes made all the difference? Yoda immediately reaches out through the Force, broadcasting a telepathic warning to every Jedi Master he can reach. The message is simple but urgent. The clones will betray us. Defend yourselves. Trust no one. This warning ripples through the Force like a stone cast into still water, reaching the most powerful and attuned Jedi first. Master Mace Windu feels it while confronting Palpatine in the Chancellor's office. Master Ki-Adi-Mundi senses it on Maigito. Master Plo Koon receives it while flying over Cato Neimoidia. Obi-Wan Kenobi gets the message on Utapau. Aayla Secura hears it on Felucia. The warning spreads like wildfire through the Jedi consciousness. When Commander Cody raises his blaster toward Obi-Wan's back, the Jedi Master is already moving. Obi-Wan doesn't want to believe it. These men fought beside him for years. But Yoda's warning carries the weight of absolute truth. Obi-Wan leaps from Boga's saddle a split second before the blast hits. The loyal creature falls, and Obi-Wan plummets down the sinkhole, but this time he's prepared. He uses the Force to cushion his descent, landing in the waters below with barely a splash. Above him, he hears Cody shouting orders to search for the body, but Obi-Wan is already swimming through underwater passages, using the Force to hold his breath far longer than any normal human could. On Maigito, Ki-Adi-Mundi ignites his lightsaber and deflects the first volley of blaster fire from his own troops. His Syrian mind processes the tactical situation in microseconds. He cannot fight an entire battalion. He reaches out with the Force, collapsing a nearby building between himself and the clone troopers. The debris creates a temporary barrier, and he force speeds away, disappearing into the crystalline canyons of the banking world. Commander Bakara orders his men to pursue, but Ki-Adi-Mundi has vanished like a ghost. Master Plo Koon feels Yoda's warning while piloting his starfighter through the skies of Cato Neimoidia. He glances at his instruments and sees his clone wingmen adjusting their flight paths, moving into attack formation. Against him, Plo Koon is one of the Order's finest pilots. He immediately throws his fighter into a dive, corkscrewing through the bridge structures of the planet's massive cities. The clones open fire, but Plo Koon's reflexes are enhanced by the Force. He weaves through the streams of laser fire, then activates his hyperdrive at a dangerous altitude. His ship tears a hole through the atmosphere and vanishes into hyperspace. It's a reckless jump without proper calculations, but death is certain if he stays. Aayla Secura ignites both her lightsabers as Commander Bly and his troops open fire. She deflects the bolts in a whirlwind of blue energy, using the dense Felucian jungle to her advantage. The massive plants provide cover as she force pushes several clones into the undergrowth and leaps into the canopy above. The jungle of Felucia is alive with dangerous creatures, but Aayla uses the Force to calm them, to guide them. Within minutes, she's miles away, and the jungle itself seems to swallow her presence. Aboard his Venator-class Star Destroyer, Master Plo Koon drops out of hyperspace in an uninhabited system. His fighter is damaged and low on fuel, but he's alive. He immediately begins broadcasting on encrypted Jedi frequencies. This is Master Plo Koon to any surviving Jedi. The clone army has turned against us. Do not trust the clone troopers. Rendezvous at emergency coordinates. He transmits a series of prearranged emergency locations, coordinates that were established years ago for exactly this kind of catastrophic scenario. The Jedi had contingencies. They had to. But none of them ever imagined they would need them against their own army. On Kashyyyk, Yoda moves with speed that belies his age. As Gree and his lieutenant approach with raised weapons, Yoda's lightsaber is already ignited. 2 swift strikes and both clones fall. Yoda feels the weight of this action. These men were soldiers following orders, their minds compromised by programming they couldn't resist. But there is no time for grief, not yet. Yoda contacts Chewbacca and Tarful. The Wookiees, loyal friends of the Jedi, help Yoda escape to a hidden catamaran. Within the hour, Yoda is aboard a small ship, jumping to hyperspace. He sets course for Coruscant. If there is any chance to stop this catastrophe at its source, he must confront the darkness directly. But what about Anakin Skywalker? In this timeline, everything changes when Mace Windu receives Yoda's warning just moments before Anakin enters the Chancellor's office. Windu is standing over Palpatine, his lightsaber ready to strike down the Sith Lord, when he feels Yoda's presence in his mind. The clones betray us. Trust no one. Windu's tactical mind immediately understands the implications. This is coordinated. This is planned. And if the clones are turning on the Jedi, then everything Palpatine said about the Jedi rebellion was a lie prepared in advance. When Anakin bursts through the door, shouting for Windu to stop, the Jedi Master turns to face him. Anakin, the clones are attacking Jedi across the galaxy. Yoda has warned us. This man orchestrated everything. The war, the clone army, all of it. Anakin's face shows confusion, conflict. He looks at Palpatine, who is still playing the part of the injured old man. That's not true. The Jedi are taking over. But Windu presses forward. Then why are clone troopers killing Jedi on every world at this exact moment? How could we coordinate a takeover when we're the ones being executed? The logic cuts through Anakin's emotional turmoil. Palpatine sees his carefully constructed manipulation beginning to crumble. He unleashes Force lightning at Windu, who deflects it back with his lightsaber. The purple blade reflects the blue electricity toward Palpatine, but the Sith Lord is no longer pretending weakness. He stands, his full power radiating outward. Anakin staggers back from the sheer darkness emanating from the Chancellor. "This is what you serve, Skywalker?" Windu shouts over the crackling energy. "This is what you would betray your brothers for." Anakin's mind races. He thinks of Padme. Palpatine promised he could save her. But looking at the creature before him, wreathed in dark side energy, Anakin realizes he's been played. This thing wearing Palpatine's face has been grooming him for years. Every kind word, every midnight conversation, every secret lesson, all of it was manipulation. Anakin ignites his lightsaber and stands beside Windu. Together, the 2 Jedi Masters press the attack against Darth Sidious. The duel that follows shakes the foundations of the Chancellor's office. Sidious is powerful beyond measure, a Sith Lord who has spent decades accumulating strength in secret. But facing 2 of the Order's greatest warriors simultaneously, both fueled by righteous fury and perfect synchronization through the Force, even he begins to falter. Windu's Vapad form feeds on the darkness, growing stronger with every exchange. Anakin's raw power and unconventional style create openings that Windu exploits with surgical precision. Within minutes, Sidious realizes he cannot win this fight. Not here. Not now. The Dark Lord unleashes a massive force push that sends both Jedi crashing through the office windows. As they fall, they use the Force to slow their descent, landing on a speeder platform far below. When they look up, Sidious is gone. He's escaped into the maze of Coruscant's underworld. Anakin wants to pursue, but Windu stops him. "We need to reach the temple. If the clones are attacking Jedi everywhere, the temple is under siege right now." They commandeer a speeder and race across the city. The Jedi temple is indeed under attack. Commander Appo and the 501st Legion march up the steps, blaster rifles raised. But unlike the original timeline where Anakin led them and most Jedi were scattered across the galaxy, this temple is defended by dozens of masters and hundreds of knights. The clones open fire and the Jedi deflect their bolts, trying desperately to stop the troopers without killing them. These were friends. These were brothers in arms. But the inhibitor chips override everything. The clones feel no hesitation. They simply execute their programming. Master Shaktai stands at the temple entrance, her lightsaber a blur as she protects the younglings being evacuated behind her. Master Chindralig, the temple's battle master, fights alongside her. Together, they hold the entrance, but they're being pushed back by sheer numbers. The 501st is the Republic's finest, and there are thousands of them. Just when it seems the temple will be overwhelmed, Anakin and Mace Windu arrive. Anakin sees the clone troopers, men he led into battle countless times, trying to massacre his home. The last vestiges of doubt evaporate. Padme would want him to do the right thing. She would want him to save the innocent. And right now, the Jedi younglings are the innocent. Anakin and Windu crash into the clone formation from behind, their lightsabers cutting through armor with terrible efficiency. They're not trying to wound anymore. There's no time for mercy. These clones won't stop until they're dead or the Jedi are exterminated. Anakin channels his rage, his fear, his desperation into raw power. Clone troopers are thrown backward by force pushes. Their weapons are ripped from their hands. Within minutes, the tide turns. The 501st begins to retreat, regrouping for another assault. But the Jedi have bought precious time. Windu immediately takes command. All masters begin evacuation protocols. We're abandoning the temple. Get every Jedi off Coruscant before the entire planet turns against us. Ships are prepped in the temple hangar. Jedi pile aboard with whatever supplies and holocrons they can carry. The younglings are loaded first, protected by the most powerful masters. Yoda arrives during the evacuation, his small ship landing in the chaos of the hangar. The Grand Master's presence gives everyone hope. If Yoda survived, if the greatest among them still lives, then perhaps the Order itself can survive. But where? Can 10,000 Jedi hide? Where in the galaxy can they go that Palpatine's reach won't find them? Yoda has an answer. To the unknown regions we must go. Worlds there are, uncharted and wild. Hidden from the Republic we will be. Time to rebuild we will have. It's a desperate plan, fleeing to the edge of known space, but it's better than staying and being hunted to extinction. The Jedi fleet, comprised of everything from small fighters to large transports, begins jumping to hyperspace. They scatter at first, taking different routes to avoid being tracked, with plans to rendezvous later. Not all Jedi make it off Coruscant. Some are caught in the streets, hunted down by clone patrols. Some choose to stay behind, to slow the enemy and buy time for others to escape. Master Tindralig remains at the temple, fighting a rearguard action that will be remembered in Jedi history. He falls surrounded by hundreds of disabled clone troopers, his lightsaber still ignited in his hand. His sacrifice allows 3 more transports to escape. In the chaos of war, heroes emerge in the most unexpected ways. Across the galaxy, similar scenes play out. Some Jedi receive Yoda's warning and escape. Others are caught off guard and perish despite the warning, overwhelmed by sheer numbers or betrayed before the message reaches them. But the survival rate is dramatically different from the original timeline. Instead of perhaps 100 Jedi surviving Order 66, thousands make it off their respective worlds. Masters who would have died on distant battlefields now flee to emergency rendezvous points. Obi-Wan Kenobi emerges from the waters of Utapau and steals a clone transport ship. He files a false flight plan and jumps to hyperspace before Commander Cody can lock down the system. His first instinct is to check on Anakin, to find out if his former Padawan survived. He broadcasts on encrypted channels and is shocked to receive a response. Anakin is alive. More than that, Anakin helped defend the temple. Obi-Wan feels a surge of relief so powerful it nearly overwhelms him. His greatest fear, that Anakin would fall to darkness, has not come to pass. The bond between master and apprentice remains unbroken. On Kashyyyk, the Wookiees prove themselves the truest of friends. When word spreads that the clones are hunting Jedi, the Wookiees turn on the Republic forces. Massive battles erupt in the Tree Cities. The clones expected to hunt one diminutive Jedi Master. Instead, they face an entire planet of angry Wookiees defending their friend. Tarful personally leads the resistance, buying time for other Jedi who were on Kashyyyk to escape. The planet becomes one of the first to openly rebel against the New Empire, a rebellion that will cost countless lives but save dozens of Jedi. Palpatine, now openly declaring himself Emperor, is furious. His grand plan has failed. Order 66 was supposed to decapitate the Jedi Order in one swift stroke, leaving only scattered survivors easily hunted down. Instead, thousands of Jedi escaped, including the most powerful masters. The Jedi Council is intact. Yoda lives. Windu lives. Even the Chosen One, who was supposed to become his apprentice, stands against him. Palpatine retreats to the shadows, consolidating his political power over the Senate while marshaling his military forces. He knows the war is far from over. In fact, it has just begun. In the Senate, Palpatine gives his famous speech. The war is over. The Jedi rebellion has been foiled, but senators who were friends of the Order whisper doubts. Bail Organa, Mon Mothma, and others question the official narrative. If the Jedi were truly staging a coup, why did they flee? Why didn't they seize the Senate building or attack government facilities? Why did they only defend themselves and their temple? The cracks in Palpatine's story are visible to anyone willing to look, but fear keeps most senators silent. Fear of the new Emperor and his unlimited power. Anakin faces a terrible choice. He could flee with the other Jedi, but Padme is still on Coruscant. He lands his fighter on her apartment building's platform under cover of darkness. Padme rushes out to meet him, having heard the terrible news about the Jedi. Anakin, what's happening? Are you safe? He holds her, breathing in her presence. Padme, I need you to come with me. Leave Coruscant. The Chancellor. He's not what we thought. He's been manipulating everyone. The whole war was his design. Padme is shocked, but not entirely surprised. She's been sensing that something was wrong in the Senate for months. The way Palpatine accumulated emergency powers. The way he refused to give them up even when the war seemed won. Anakin tells her everything. Palpatine is a Sith Lord. He tried to turn me. He wanted me to help him destroy the Jedi. But I saw through him. I stood with Master Windu. Now the Jedi are fleeing, and I need to know you're safe. I can't focus on the fight ahead if I'm worried about you. Padme makes her decision quickly. I'll come with you. But Anakin, I'm pregnant. The words hang in the air between them. Anakin's eyes widen. Pregnant. He feels joy, terror, and determination all at once. This changes everything. His vision of Padme dying in childbirth, the nightmare that drove him toward darkness, suddenly becomes more real. But this time, he doesn't turn to forbidden Sith teachings. He has the entire Jedi Order to help him. Masters of the healing arts, the finest minds in the galaxy. If anyone can help ensure Padme survives childbirth, they can. They board Anakin's ship along with C-3PO and R2-D2. Padme leaves behind a resignation message to the Senate, explaining that she cannot serve an emperor who seized power through deception. It's a brave statement that will inspire other senators to question Palpatine's rule. As they break through Coruscant's atmosphere and jump to hyperspace, Anakin feels a weight lift from his shoulders. He chose love over power. He chose the light over the darkness. And somehow, despite everything, he feels more at peace than he has in years. The Jedi rendezvous in the unknown regions at a massive space station orbiting a hidden world. It's an old Republic way station, abandoned centuries ago and forgotten by modern charts. Yoda chose this location decades earlier as an emergency fallback position. Now it serves as the gathering point for the scattered survivors. Ship after ship arrives. The hangar fills with fighters, transports, and stolen Republic vessels. Jedi embrace each other, relieved to see friends they feared were dead. The mood is somber but hopeful. They survived. Against all odds, the Order endured. A council meeting is called in the station's largest chamber. Yoda sits in the center, with Mace Windu, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Plo Koon, Ki-Adi-Mundi, Shakti, and several other masters forming a circle. Anakin is invited to join, a recognition of his actions in defending the temple. The discussion is intense. Some masters argue for going into hiding, disappearing into the galaxy, and waiting for Palpatine's empire to eventually fall. Others, led by Mace Windu, advocate for immediate action. We have thousands of Jedi, many of them masters. We have the element of surprise. Palpatine thinks we're scattered and broken. We should strike now before he consolidates power. Yoda listens to all perspectives before speaking. Clouded the future is, but this I know. Allow the Sith to rule unchallenged, we cannot. Trillions of beings suffer under darkness if we do nothing, but reckless action leads to ruin. A middle path we must find. It's decided that the Jedi will form a resistance movement. They'll reach out to sympathetic systems, building a coalition against the Empire. They'll conduct surgical strikes against key Imperial facilities. And most importantly, they'll work to free clone troopers from their inhibitor chips. This last point is critical. The clones are not traitors by choice. They're slaves to programming implanted in their brains. If the Jedi can remove these chips, they can restore the clones' free will. Many clones, once freed, might join the Jedi cause. At the very least, they'll stop being weapons aimed at the Order. Anakin, with his technical expertise and his personal connection to the clone army, volunteers to lead this effort. He knows clone troopers better than almost any Jedi. He lived with them, fought beside them, joked with them. If anyone can reach them, it's him. The first major operation is launched within a week. A strike team led by Anakin and Obi-Wan infiltrates a medical station where clone troopers are being processed after battles. Using stolen Imperial codes, they access the facility and surgically remove inhibitor chips from a squad of clones. The procedure is delicate, requiring Force-assisted precision, but it works. When the first clone wakes up and realizes what he's done, what he was forced to do, the horror in his eyes is heartbreaking. But there's also relief that it's over, that he has his mind back. Commander Rex, Anakin's most trusted clone officer, is among the first freed. Rex remembers everything, raising his blaster toward Ahsoka Tano, his friend. The cold compulsion that overrode his loyalty and love for the Jedi. When Anakin tells him that Ahsoka survived in the original timeline thanks to Rex's strength in partially resisting the chip, Rex weeps. In this timeline, Ahsoka also survived, having been warned through her own connection to the Force. She arrives at the station just as Rex is freed, and their reunion is emotional. The former master and Padawan embrace the clone commander who tried so hard to fight his programming. Word of the chip removal spreads. Clone troopers who have their free will restored become some of the Jedi's most loyal allies. They form the core of a new military force, one that combines Jedi abilities with clone tactical expertise. It's an army unlike anything the galaxy has seen. Warriors who blend the Force with advanced combat training. Palpatine's worst nightmare is coming true. The weapons he created to destroy the Jedi are being turned against him. But the Emperor is not without resources. Darth Vader does not exist in this timeline, but Palpatine still has the Inquisitorius, former Jedi who fell to the dark side, or dark side adepts trained in secret. He also begins accelerating the production of new clone batches, these ones with enhanced inhibitor chips that cannot be removed without killing the host. And he starts recruiting non-clone soldiers, humans and aliens from across the galaxy, who are promised wealth and power in the new empire. The Imperial military begins to shift from a clone army to a mixed force. The galaxy fractures into three major factions. The Empire controls the core worlds and much of the Mid-Rim, holding populations through fear and military might. The Jedi Order, now calling itself the Jedi Alliance, controls several Outer Rim systems and many scattered bases. And then there are the independent systems, planets that refuse to join either side, trying to remain neutral. But neutrality becomes increasingly difficult as the conflict escalates. Major battles erupt across the galaxy. On Ryloth, Jedi Master Mace Windu leads a liberation force to free the Twi'lek people from Imperial occupation. The battle is brutal. Imperial forces, expecting perhaps a dozen Jedi, instead face hundreds supported by freed clones and local resistance fighters. Windu personally duels 3 Inquisitors simultaneously, his lightsaber a purple blur. The Inquisitors are skilled, but they're no match for a master who spent his entire life perfecting combat. Within an hour, all 3 Inquisitors are dead, and the Imperial garrison is in retreat. On Mandalore, the situation is complicated. Bo-Katan Kryze, who once worked with Ahsoka Tano, finds herself torn between Mandalorian neutrality and respect for the Jedi. When Imperial forces attempt to seize Mandalore's resources, she reaches out to the Jedi Alliance. Ahsoka arrives with a small task force, and together they drive the Empire off Mandalore. The Mandalorians don't officially join the Alliance, but they become informal allies, providing weapons and training to Jedi forces. Obi-Wan Kenobi focuses on diplomacy as much as combat. He travels to systems on the fence, speaking to planetary leaders, convincing them that the Empire represents tyranny while the Jedi fight for freedom. His reputation as the negotiator serves him well. Dozens of systems join the Alliance, providing resources, safe havens, and recruits. The Alliance swells from thousands to tens of thousands as non-Force-sensitive volunteers join the cause. Anakin and Padme live on one of the Alliance base worlds. Their twins, Luke and Leia, are born in safety. delivered by Jedi healers who ensure Padmé's survival. Anakin's vision of her death was just that, a vision, a potential future that never came to pass because he made different choices. The twins are strong in the Force, their presence like twin stars in the Force itself. Yoda senses their potential and smiles. The next generation of Jedi has arrived, born not into an order of rigid tradition, but into an alliance fighting for freedom. The war grinds on for years. It's not the quick victory Mace Windu hoped for, nor is it the total Jedi extermination Palpatine planned. It's a brutal stalemate. The Empire has industrial might, controlling the galaxy's manufacturing centers and shipbuilding facilities. The Alliance has the Force, superior individual warriors, and the moral high ground. Neither side can deliver a knockout blow. Palpatine grows desperate. He begins researching ancient Sith superweapons, artifacts that can channel the dark side on a massive scale. He pours resources into a secret project, a battle station capable of destroying entire planets. This weapon will be called the Death Star. If he cannot defeat the Jedi through conventional military means, he will terrorize the galaxy into submission. He will demonstrate power so absolute that resistance becomes unthinkable. But the Jedi have spies everywhere. The Force allows them insights that normal intelligence agencies lack. When construction begins on the Death Star, the Alliance learns of it within months. They realize they must stop this project at any cost. If Palpatine completes his superweapon, everything changes. The Alliance could lose every battle and still win the war as long as Hope survives. But Hope cannot survive the Death Star. A massive operation is planned. The largest Jedi strike force ever assembled will attack the construction site above Geonosis. Every available Master, Knight, and freed clone trooper will participate. It's a desperate gamble. If they fail, the Alliance could be crippled. But if they succeed, they might end the war. Yoda gives the order. All forces converge on Geonosis. The Emperor's weapon we will destroy. The galaxy we will free. The Battle of Geonosis becomes the largest space engagement since the Clone Wars. Hundreds of Jedi starfighters engage thousands of Imperial TIE fighters. Capital ships exchange broadsides in the planet's orbit. The partially constructed Death Star hangs in space like a metal moon, surrounded by defensive stations and minefields. The Jedi Alliance throws everything they have at it. Anakin Skywalker leads Gold Squadron on a trench run reminiscent of the one his son would make in another timeline. But this time, the target is not a small thermal exhaust port, but rather the main reactor core, exposed because construction is incomplete. Anakin's piloting skills, enhanced by the Force, allow him to navigate through a storm of laser fire. He lines up his shot, fires proton torpedoes, and pulls up at the last possible second. The torpedoes streak into the Death Star's core. The explosion is spectacular. The reactor goes critical, setting off a chain reaction that tears through the unfinished station. Secondary explosions ripple across its surface. Within minutes, the massive structure breaks apart. Pieces of it fall toward Geonosis, burning up in the atmosphere. The Emperor's superweapon, years in development and costing unimaginable resources, is destroyed before it can fire a single shot. The Imperial fleet, demoralized by the destruction of their ultimate weapon, begins to retreat. Jedi boarding parties seize several Star Destroyers, capturing Imperial officers and valuable intelligence. Among the captured is Grand Moff Tarkin, one of Palpatine's most loyal servants. The Battle of Geonosis ends in a decisive Alliance victory. It's a turning point in the war. News of the Death Star's destruction spreads across the galaxy. Systems that were afraid to openly oppose the Empire now find their courage. Rebellions erupt on dozens of worlds. The Imperial military, stretched thin trying to maintain order, begins to fracture. Some officers, seeing the writing on the wall, defect to the Alliance. Others dig in, becoming increasingly brutal in their efforts to maintain control. The Empire begins to eat itself from within. Palpatine, enraged by the loss of his superweapon, makes a critical mistake. He decides to lead the Imperial fleet personally, to crush the Jedi Alliance once and for all. He gathers the largest armada ever assembled and sets course for the Alliance's primary base. It's a trap. The Jedi knew Palpatine's ego would force him to take the field personally after such a humiliating defeat. They've prepared the battlefield carefully. The final confrontation happens above the planet Ilum, ancient homeworld of lightsaber crystals. The Imperial fleet emerges from hyperspace expecting to find a lightly defended base. Instead, they encounter the full might of the Jedi Alliance. Every ship, every fighter, every warrior the Alliance can muster is waiting. And on the planet's surface, the Jedi have done something extraordinary. They've turned Ilum's Kyber crystal caves into a massive force amplifier, a temple that enhances the abilities of every light side user in the system. The space battle is chaos. Capital ships explode in silent flashes. Starfighters weave between the debris. Palpatine's flagship, the Eclipse, leads the Imperial charge. On the bridge, the Emperor feels the Jedi's trap closing around him. He smiles. These fools think they can defeat a Dark Lord of the Sith with crystals and hope. He will show them true power. Palpatine reaches out with the Force, channeling the dark side on a scale that few Sith in history could match. He attempts to unleash a Force storm, a technique that can destroy entire fleets. Dark energy begins to gather around the Eclipse, lightning crackling across space itself. But on Ilum's surface, Yoda and the Jedi Council form a meditation circle in the crystal caves. They reach out together, combining their strength, channeling the light side of the Force through the amplifying crystals. Light meets darkness in the space between fleets. The Force storm collides with a wave of pure light energy. The two forces struggle, reality itself seeming to warp under the strain. Every Force-sensitive being in the system feels it, a pressure that threatens to crush their minds. Anakin, leading his squadron through the battle, feels both sides of the conflict. The seductive power of the dark side pulling at him, the serene strength of the light holding him steady. On the Eclipse's bridge, Palpatine screams in fury. He pours more power into his attack, drawing on reserves of dark side energy that would kill a lesser being. But the Jedi Council, working in perfect harmony, matches him. The combined will of the galaxy's greatest light side masters proves equal to the Sith Lord's might. The contest becomes a battle of endurance. Whoever falters first will lose everything. Mace Windu makes a decision. He breaks from the meditation circle and boards a small ship. If we cannot break Palpatine's power from here, I'll break it at the source. The ship launches from Ilum, screaming toward the Eclipse at full speed. Imperial fighters move to intercept, but Jedi pilots clear a path. Windu's ship crashes into the Eclipse's hangar bay. The Master emerges from the wreckage, lightsaber ignited, and begins cutting his way toward the bridge. Palpatine senses Windu's approach. He withdraws some of his power from the Force storm to create defenses. Inquisitors and royal guards rush to stop the Jedi Master, but Windu is unstoppable. His lightsaber, powered by his complete mastery of both light and dark aspects of combat, cuts through every opponent. Bodies of fallen Imperial warriors mark his path. Within minutes, he reaches the bridge. The door explodes inward. Mace Windu steps through, his purple lightsaber illuminating the darkness. Emperor Palpatine stands at the center of the bridge, lightning still crackling from his fingertips as he maintains the Force storm. The two warriors face each other. This is where it ends, Sith. Your empire dies today. Palpatine laughs, a sound like grinding metal. You could have been my apprentice, Skywalker. Together we could have ruled, but you chose this weakling's path. Windu attacks. His Vapad form, which channels the opponent's darkness back against them, is the perfect counter to Palpatine's aggressive style. The two engage in a duel that would be legendary if anyone survived to tell the tale. Lightsaber clashes with Force lightning. Windu's blade cuts through the bridge consoles, sending sparks flying. Palpatine's attacks tear chunks from the walls. The bridge begins to decompress. Outside, with Palpatine's attention divided, the Force storm begins to weaken. The Jedi Council pushes harder, and the dark side energy dissipates. Across the battlefield, Jedi feel renewed strength. The Force is with them, flowing through them like a river of light. Alliance ships press their advantage. One by one, Imperial Star Destroyers are disabled or destroyed. The tide of battle turns decisively. On the bridge, Windu and Palpatine continue their brutal duel. Both warriors are exhausted, drawing on reserves of strength that go beyond physical. It's a battle of wills as much as skills. Finally, Windu sees an opening. Palpatine overextends on an attack, and Windu's lightsaber flashes upward. The purple blade takes off Palpatine's hand. The Emperor screams, more in rage than pain. Before Palpatine can recover, Windu channels every ounce of Force energy he has left into a massive push. The Dark Lord is thrown backward through the bridge viewport, tumbling into the vacuum of space. For a moment, Palpatine tries to use the Force to pull himself back, but his concentration is broken. His body spins away into the void, surrounded by the debris of his dying fleet. The Emperor, who sought to rule the galaxy forever, meets his end among the stars he tried to dominate. Windu collapses to his knees, breathing hard. Through the shattered viewport, he watches the Imperial fleet beginning to scatter. Without Palpatine's will binding them, without the fear of his power keeping them in line, the Imperial forces break. Some ships surrender, others flee to hyperspace. The backbone of the Empire shatters in minutes. Windu activates his comlink. The Emperor is dead. The war is over. Across the galaxy, the effects ripple outward immediately. On Coruscant, Imperial officers receive contradictory orders as the chain of command collapses. Some try to maintain order, others abandon their posts. In the Senate building, Bail Organa and Mon Mothma seize the moment. They call an emergency session and move to dissolve the Empire, to restore the Republic. It's chaotic, it's messy, but democracy begins to reassert itself. On worlds occupied by Imperial forces, the garrisons suddenly find themselves cut off and alone. Local populations, emboldened by news of Palpatine's death, rise up. Not all these rebellions succeed, and many are brutally suppressed, but enough succeed that the Empire's control begins to fragment. Within weeks, thousands of systems declare independence or rejoin the Republic. The galaxy transforms almost overnight. The Jedi Alliance faces a critical question. What comes next? They have military power. They could impose their will on the galaxy, become its rulers, and ensure peace through strength. Some younger Jedi, hardened by years of war, actually advocate for this. We've seen what happens when we step back. The Sith rise. Democracy becomes tyranny. Maybe it's time for the Jedi to take a more active role in governance. Yoda listens to these arguments in the restored Jedi Temple on Coruscant. The temple was damaged during Order 66, but is now being rebuilt. The Grand Master sits in meditation for 3 days before calling a council meeting. His words, when he finally speaks, echo with wisdom earned over 9 centuries. Learned from our mistakes, we have. The Jedi were not meant to be soldiers, not meant to be rulers. Guardians of peace we are. Servants of the Force, but the Force serves all life, not just those we deem worthy. He proposes a new structure for the Jedi Order. They will remain independent of any government, but they will work closely with the restored Republic. They will serve as peacekeepers, mediators, and protectors, but they will not command armies or make political decisions. Individual Jedi can serve in government if they choose, but they must temporarily leave the Order while doing so to avoid conflicts of interest. It's a delicate balance, trying to remain engaged with galactic affairs while avoiding the mistakes that led to their downfall. The proposal is controversial. Some Jedi leave the Order, feeling that this new structure is too passive, that the Jedi should use their power more directly. Others embrace it, relieved to return to the Order's roots as spiritual guides rather than warriors. Mace Windu, who has seen the cost of war up close, becomes one of the new structure's strongest advocates. We became generals and forgot we were Jedi. Never again. Anakin Skywalker faces his own crossroads. He's a hero of the Jedi Alliance, his tactical brilliance and raw power instrumental in the war's outcome. But he's also a husband and father. Luke and Leia are growing up in a time of peace, and Anakin wants to be there for them. He speaks with Yoda about his future. I'm not sure I fit in the Order anymore, Master. I have attachments. I love my wife. I love my children. The old code would say that makes me a poor Jedi. Yoda's response surprises him. Changed, the code must. Scene we have where rigid doctrine leads. Attachment and possession, not the same they are. Love freely given, without jealousy or fear. This is not forbidden. This is the will of the Force. Anakin is granted the rank of Master, not as a tactical commander, but as a teacher of younglings. He develops a new curriculum that emphasizes emotional awareness and healthy relationships rather than suppression of feelings. His own near fall to darkness becomes a teaching tool, a lesson in recognizing and managing difficult emotions. Obi-Wan Kenobi takes on a different role. He becomes the Order's ambassador to the rest of the galaxy, traveling to worlds that are suspicious of the Jedi after years of Imperial propaganda. He speaks to crowds, telling the true story of Order 66, of Palpatine's manipulation, of the Jedi who died trying to protect the innocent. Slowly, public opinion shifts. The Jedi are no longer seen as fallen heroes or dangerous relics, but as protectors who sacrificed everything to save the galaxy from tyranny. But not everyone accepts the new order. In the unknown regions and on isolated worlds, remnants of the Empire persist. These Imperial holdouts, led by surviving Moffs and Admirals, continue to fight a guerrilla war against the Republic. They lack the resources for major campaigns, but they can still cause significant damage through terrorism and sabotage. It becomes clear that the Empire's shadow will linger for a generation at least. There are also Force-sensitive individuals who were trained as Inquisitors, who were steeped in the dark side but survived Palpatine's fall. Some of these former Inquisitors seek redemption, approaching the Jedi and asking to be taught the light side. The Order debates whether to accept them. Can someone who has killed innocents, who has tortured and terrorized, truly return to the light? Yoda argues for compassion. The path back from darkness is difficult but possible. We must offer it, even knowing some will fail. The Order begins accepting former Darksiders, though they face years of meditation and service before being fully trusted. One such redeemed Inquisitor is Barriss Offee. In this timeline, she survived her imprisonment and was eventually forced to serve Palpatine as an Inquisitor. The experience was nightmarish, her body and mind twisted by darkside training. When she finally escapes and returns to the Jedi, Ahsoka is there to greet her. The reunion is painful. Barriss weeps, begging forgiveness for her betrayal before the Clone Wars, for the innocents she killed as an Inquisitor. Ahsoka embraces her former friend. The dark side took you, but the light can heal you. We'll walk that path together. Luke and Leia Skywalker grow up in this new era. They're trained as Jedi from a young age, but their childhood is vastly different from younglings of the old order. They know their parents. They experience love and family bonds. They're allowed to have friends outside the order, to maintain connections to the wider galaxy. It's an experimental approach to Jedi training, one that produces very different results. Luke proves to be incredibly powerful in the Force, his abilities manifesting early and strongly. But he's also compassionate and optimistic in a way that makes him a natural healer and teacher. He has his father's instinctive connection to the Force, but his mother's diplomatic nature. By the time he's 15, he's already assisting in negotiations between conflicting systems, using the Force to sense emotions and guide conversations toward peaceful resolutions. Leia, meanwhile, shows less interest in traditional Jedi pursuits. She trains in lightsaber combat and Force techniques because they're expected of her, but her true passion is politics. She watches her mother in the Senate and realizes that lasting change comes through laws and institutions, not just individual heroism. When she's old enough, she begins working as Padmé's aide, learning the intricacies of galactic governance. She uses the Force not for combat, but to sense deception, to understand the motivations of political rivals, to guide policy toward justice. The galaxy enters a period historians will call the Restoration. It's not a return to the old Republic. That institution was too flawed and corrupted to simply resurrect. Instead, it's the creation of something new, a government that learns from past mistakes while honoring past ideals. The process is slow and frustrating, with frequent setbacks and compromises that satisfy no one completely. But it's progress. The Jedi Order also undergoes significant changes. The temple on Coruscant becomes one of many Jedi centers rather than the sole headquarters. Temples are established on worlds across the galaxy, each with its own council and specializations. The Coruscant Temple focuses on diplomacy and philosophy. The temple on Ilum specializes in lightsaber construction and meditation. A new temple on Tython, the ancient Jedi homeworld, becomes a center for studying the Force's mysteries and training archaeologists who seek lost Jedi knowledge. This decentralization proves wise. When a Sith cult attacks the Coruscant Temple 20 years after Palpatine's death, they expect to decapitate the Order in one strike. Instead, they destroy one building and kill perhaps 30 Jedi. The Order as a whole barely notices. The attackers are captured, and the temple is rebuilt within a year. The Jedi have learned that concentrating all their power in one place makes them vulnerable. Ahsoka Tano becomes Grand Master when Yoda finally decides to step down. It's a controversial choice. She was expelled from the Order once, and she spent years walking a path between Jedi and something else. But Yoda sees in her exactly what the Order needs. Learn from failure, she has. Understands both the light and the shadows beyond it. Guide the Order forward, she will. Ahsoka accepts reluctantly, knowing the responsibility is immense. Under her leadership, the Order becomes even more flexible and diverse. Jedi are encouraged to spend time living among normal people, to maintain connections to the galaxy they serve. Some Jedi become doctors, teachers, or engineers, using the Force to enhance their mundane work rather than focusing solely on lightsaber combat and diplomacy. The Order stops seeing itself as separate from the galaxy and instead becomes woven into its fabric. Anakin Skywalker, now in his 50s, looks back on his life with wonder. He came so close to falling to darkness. If Mace Windu hadn't received Yoda's warning a few minutes earlier, if he had killed Palpatine before Anakin arrived, if any of a dozen small details had been different, he might have become Darth Vader. He might have slaughtered younglings and hunted his former friends. The thought fills him with horror and gratitude. He was saved not by his own strength, but by the bonds of friendship and the timely intervention of fate, or perhaps the will of the Force itself. He teaches his students about his near fall, holding nothing back. He describes the fear, the anger, the seductive promise of power that almost consumed him. Then he explains what saved him. Not rigid adherence to the code, not fear of punishment, but love. Love for Padme, love for Obi-Wan, love for the ideals the Jedi represented even when they failed to live up to them. It's a controversial teaching style, but his students become some of the most emotionally balanced Jedi in the Order. The question of Anakin being the chosen one occasionally comes up. Did he fulfill the prophecy by standing against Palpatine instead of joining him? Or was the prophecy always misunderstood? Yoda offers his thoughts on this. The prophecy spoke of bringing balance to the Force. In the old timeline, balance came through destruction and rebirth. The Jedi and Sith both nearly wiped out before a new generation could rise. In this timeline, balance comes through reform and growth. The Jedi learned to acknowledge darkness without being consumed by it. Perhaps both paths were always possible, and Anakin's choice determined which path the galaxy would take. Decades pass. The generation that fought in the Clone Wars grows old. Yoda finally becomes one with the Force at the age of 950, surrounded by friends and students. His last words are characteristically cryptic. Death is not the end. The Force connects all things, all times. Serve it well, and forever you serve. His funeral is attended by representatives from thousands of worlds, a testament to his impact on galactic history. Obi-Wan Kenobi lives into his 80s, still traveling and teaching even when his body begins to fail. He dies peacefully on Tatooine, having gone there to help settle a dispute between moisture farmers. His last student, a young woman named Nelith, becomes a prominent Jedi Knight who specializes in desert world diplomacy. Obi-Wan would have been proud. Mace Windu survives the longest of the Old Guard, living to see his 100th birthday. He becomes a legend, the Jedi who killed the Emperor, but he never lets the fame change him. He spends his final years teaching advanced lightsaber techniques to the next generation, ensuring that the combat skills that saved the Order during the war won't be lost in peacetime. When he finally passes, his funeral is a celebration rather than a mourning, honoring a life fully lived in service to the light. Luke Skywalker, in his 30s, becomes one of the Order's most respected masters despite his youth. He develops new Force techniques that bridge the gap between healing and combat, allowing Jedi to disable opponents without causing permanent harm. His philosophy spreads throughout the Order, influencing how Jedi approach conflict resolution. He marries a fellow Jedi named Mara, another controversial choice that the Reformed Order accepts. Their children continue the Skywalker legacy of powerful Force sensitivity, Leia Organa, taking her adoptive parents' name to honor Bail and Breha's support of the Jedi during the Dark Times, becomes Chancellor of the Republic. She's the first Force-sensitive leader in galactic history to hold the position openly. Some fear this will lead to Jedi domination of politics, but Leia proves scrupulous about maintaining separation between her Jedi training and political decisions. She uses the Force to sense truth and deception, but makes policy based on evidence and democratic consensus. Her chancellorship is marked by unprecedented. Ahsoka Tano, in her final years as Grand Master before retiring, gives a speech that becomes famous across the galaxy. She stands before the Senate and addresses these concerns directly. You ask why the galaxy needs Jedi. I answer with a question of my own. Does a society only need protectors when the enemy is at the gates? Or does it need guardians who watch the shadows, who sense danger before it manifests, who stand ready even in times of peace? The Jedi are not relics of a violent past. We are investments in a peaceful future. We train not because we want to fight, but because we hope we never have to. The speech resonates. Funding for the Jedi Order is maintained. But more importantly, the Order takes Ahsoka's words to heart. They intensify their focus on preventive work, on solving conflicts before they escalate to violence. Jedi become known not as warriors, but as the beings you call when negotiation seems impossible, when understanding seems out of reach, when hope seems lost. They become symbols of the possibility of peace. On Tatooine, a small monument stands in the desert. It marks the spot where Shmi Skywalker is buried. Anakin visits regularly, bringing his children and grandchildren to tell them about the woman who taught him that the greatest strength comes from compassion. The slaves of Tatooine have been freed, not through violent revolution, but through economic pressure applied by the Republic and the moral advocacy of the Jedi. It took decades, but Shmi's dream of freedom for all people is finally realized on her homeworld. Anakin feels her presence in the Force sometimes, a warm comfort that tells him she's proud. Across the galaxy, similar stories play out. Former battlefields become parks and memorials. Worlds scarred by war rebuild and prosper. Species that were enslaved or oppressed find freedom and dignity. It's not a perfect galaxy. Crime still exists. Poverty persists in some regions. Conflicts still erupt, though they're usually resolved without major warfare. But it's a galaxy where hope is real, where the future looks brighter than the past. The Jedi who survived Order 66 grow old and pass into legend. Their students take up the mantle, then train students of their own. The cycle continues, each generation learning from the last, building on their successes and avoiding their failures. The Order evolves constantly, never allowing itself to become rigid or complacent. This flexibility, this willingness to change, becomes the Jedi's greatest strength. In the Force, the spirits of departed Jedi watch and guide. Qui-Gon Jinn, the first to discover the technique of Force ghosting, appears occasionally to offer wisdom. Yoda manifests to help struggling Jedi through particularly difficult decisions. Even Mace Windu, who spent his life focused on the physical world, learns to return as a Force ghost, his distinctive voice occasionally heard by Jedi in need of tactical advice. Luke Skywalker, now an old man himself, sits in meditation and reflects on the galaxy's journey. His father's choice, that single moment when Anakin stood with Mace Windu instead of betraying him, rippled through time and space. It changed everything. Trillions of beings lived who would have died. Freedoms were preserved that would have been lost. Evil was stopped before it could fully bloom. One choice, one moment, one man choosing love over fear. That's all it took to change the fate of the galaxy. But Luke also knows that the choice wasn't just Anakin's. It was Yoda's, trusting the Force enough to send his warning. It was Obi-Wan's, immediately acting on that warning. It was Mace Windu's, sharing the truth with Anakin instead of hiding it. It was the thousands of Jedi who fought and died to protect others. It was the clone troopers who resisted their programming long enough to be saved. It was ordinary beings across the galaxy who chose to stand against tyranny even when it was dangerous. The galaxy was saved not by one hero, but by countless acts of courage and compassion. This is the lesson Luke teaches his final class of students before retiring. You are not alone in this fight. The Force connects all living things. Every act of kindness strengthens the light. Every moment of courage inspires others. You don't need to be the chosen one or a grand master to make a difference. You just need to make the right choice when it matters. Stand for what's right. Protect those who cannot protect themselves. Choose love over hate, hope over despair, and the light over the darkness. Do this, and you honor the legacy of every Jedi who came before you. The students listen intently, understanding that they're receiving wisdom earned through lifetimes of struggle and triumph. When Luke finishes, they bow respectfully, then file out to begin their own journeys. Luke watches them go and smiles. The future is in capable hands. The Order will endure. The light will shine. On Naboo, Padmé Amidala Skywalker celebrates her 80th birthday surrounded by children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. Anakin sits beside her, their hands intertwined. They've grown old together, something that seemed impossible during those dark days when Anakin feared losing her. She looks at him, her eyes still bright with intelligence and love. We made it, Ani. Against all the odds, we made it. He kisses her forehead gently. We had help, so much help. But yes, we made it. Their family sprawls across the gathering, a mix of Force sensitives and normal people, politicians and Jedi, pilots and doctors and teachers. The Skywalker line has become integral to the galaxy's fabric, each member contributing in their own way. It's not a dynasty or a ruling family, just people trying to make the galaxy a little better. Padmé wouldn't have it any other way. As the celebration continues into the night, fireworks light up Naboo's sky. The colors reflect off the planet's waters, creating a display of stunning beauty. Somewhere in the crowd, Luke and Leia stand together watching the show. They rarely get time together anymore, both consumed by their respective duties. But tonight they're just siblings enjoying a moment of peace. Leia nudges Luke. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if things went differently? If Dad had chosen wrong? Luke nods slowly. All the time. But Grandmaster Yoda once told me something. The past is fixed, but it was shaped by countless choices. In another version of reality, maybe things went differently. Maybe Dad fell. Maybe the Jedi died. But in this reality, in our reality, he chose right. And that's what matters. We honor that choice by living well, by making our own right choices. Leia smiles. Spoken like a true Jedi Master. Luke laughs. And you sound like a Chancellor. I guess we've both become exactly what we were meant to be. They stand in comfortable silence, watching the fireworks, feeling the Force flowing around them and through them and connecting them to every living thing in the galaxy. It's a perfect moment, peace and joy and love all intertwined. Across the galaxy, on thousands of worlds, beings go about their lives. Farmers tend their crops, traders haggle over prices, children play in the streets, artists create beauty, scientists make discoveries. It's ordinary life, the kind of peaceful existence that most beings take for granted. But the Jedi know the truth. Peace is not the natural state of the galaxy. It must be cultivated, protected, and maintained through constant effort. The moment you assume peace is permanent is the moment you lose it. So the Jedi remain vigilant. They watch, they train, they stand ready, but they also live. They laugh and love and hope. They're not distant warrior monks anymore, not enforcers of rigid codes. They're people, flawed and struggling and trying their best, connected by the Force and by their commitment to making the galaxy a better place. This is the Jedi Order that survived. This is the order that will endure for generations to come. The story of what would have happened if all the Jedi Masters survived Order 66 is ultimately a story about choice, about the power of individual decisions to shape the course of history, about the importance of hope even in the darkest times, about the truth that no one is too far gone, no situation too desperate, as long as beings are willing to stand up and fight for what's right. The Jedi survived not because they were strong, though they were, not because they were skilled, though they were that too. They survived because when it mattered most, when everything hung in the balance, they chose the light. And that choice made all the difference.